Coming to the next one is the uptake of minerals. That is nothing but absorption of minerals. We know already discussed in the last chapter, that is the mineral metabolism chapter, right? See, there is a passive absorption is there and the active absorption is there. Passive absorption means within the soil more amount of minerals are present. For suppose this is the one of the root and the soil contains the high concentration of the minerals, then here passively the minerals are absorbed by the plant. Passively the minerals are absorbed by the plant. See, the passive absorption process, see whatever the epidermal cells are there, the epidermal cells allows the minerals and which are entered into the cortex cells, which are controlled by the passively absorbed minerals, regulated by the transportation of passively absorbed minerals. The transportation is regulated by whatever that endodermal cells are there. We know about the endodermis. The endodermis cells regulates the transportation of passively absorbed minerals. Important point. Whatever that passively absorbed minerals are there, that minerals transportation regulated by the endodermal proteins. That is nothing but endodermis contains proteins are there, that endodermis cells contains the proteins, regulates the passively absorbed minerals transportation, right? And we know about that active absorption process. Here one of that plant is there and this is the root, and here low concentration of minerals are present. Here low concentration is present, here high concentration is present. So by the usage of energy, the minerals are absorbed. By the usage of energy, the minerals are absorbed. So here ATP is utilized. The process is called as active absorption process. This is the active absorption process, right? So that is about that absorption process. The transportation, generally soils contains that minerals. The minerals are absorbed by the root hair cells, from the root hair cells, which are entered to the root xylem to shoot xylem, and the leaf xylem, especially which are stored within the leaf regions. Or actively growing regions. So here this is the one of the sink. Sink means here this particular part involved in the storage of minerals. See, during the absorption process, during the storage process, when the minerals are stored, during the mineral storing process, the step is called as loading. The storage of minerals, the step is called as loading. Loading is the active process. Because outside low concentration of minerals are present. So here within this region high concentration minerals are present. So here to here minerals are transported. Means from low concentration to high concentration minerals are transported. So loading is active process or active transport. And next is the unloading process is the passive process. Because here high concentration, here low concentration, passively transported. Right? So that is about the transportation process and the translocation of minerals. Nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium. These are actively mobilized minerals. Calcium is the immobilized. In the last chapter also we discussed. Calcium is the immobilized element, right? Sinks means storage of minerals takes place within the plants. Wherever that actively growing regions are there, within that actively growing regions, the minerals are stored. One is the apical meristem, other one is the lateral meristem, end leaves, and the flowers, fruits, seeds, storage organs. See, majorly actively growing regions involved in the storage of minerals like apical meristem, lateral meristem, and the end leaves. Flowers, fruits, and seeds, storage organs also with tubers, right, which are also involved in the storage process, right? Majorly actively growing regions, right? Xylem involved in the transportation of inorganic nutrients. Phloem involved in the transportation of organic nutrients. Right? See, small amount of phosphorus and sulfur. This is also okay, transported in the organic form. Small amount of phosphorus and sulfur moves are transported in organic form, right? So that is about that the uptake of minerals and the translocation of minerals. Last topic is the transportation of carbohydrates. That is nothing but phloem transport. Phloem transport, right? We'll discuss. Coming to the next one is the phloem transport. Here within that phloem transport, how the food molecules are transported, we are going to discuss. First, suppose one of the plant is there, the plant leaves are there, the leaves produces the carbohydrates by the photosynthesis process, right? See, within that photosynthesis process, sugars are produced. Here sugars are nothing but glucose molecules. The glucose molecules are converted in the form of sucrose. Now glucose molecules are converted into sucrose, right? So that sucrose is the transport form of the carbohydrates. The sucrose molecules are the transport form of the carbohydrates, because we know sucrose is the non-reducing sugar. Sucrose is the non-reducing sugar. So the carbohydrates are transported in the form of non-reducing sugars. That is nothing but sucrose, right? So here whatever the plants are there, the plants here the phloem transport, okay, phloem involved in the majorly transportation of the food, and whatever that organic compounds are there, organic components also transported by the phloem. The basic difference between the xylem transport and the phloem transport, xylem is the unidirectional transport. Xylem is always unidirectional transport. Phloem is the bidirectional transport. Phloem is the bidirectional transport. So that is one of the difference between the xylem transportation and the phloem transportation. See here the source to sink the carbohydrates are transported. Source means for the phloem, here the source is the leaves. Right? Here whatever that leaves are there, the leaves are involved in the photosynthesis process. Here, generally I am talking about here, right? And sink means wherever that storage takes place, that particular parts are called as sink. Where the carbohydrates are stored, that particular parts are called as sink. So here, source is the leaves, sink is here, means leaves to roots. Some of the roots involved in the storage of carbohydrates, roots are involved in the storage of carbohydrates, tubers, maybe the stem tubers are involved in the storage of carbohydrates, and some of the buds also involved in the storage of carbohydrates. So here, source is the leaves in this case, and sinks are different parts. Wherever that carbohydrates are stored, that particular parts are considered as sinks, right? And this is one of the biennial plant, the source, okay, first year, second year. Biennial plants means the plants are survived 2 years. For suppose this is one of the biennial plant. Right? This is the root. So within this biennial plant, within the first year, right? This is the leaf is the source. And roots, here whatever the roots are there, roots are sinks. Sink here. Because whatever that carbohydrates are synthesized, the sucrose molecules are transporting from leaves to root. So in the first year, source is the leaves. Okay, sink is the root. Because here storage takes place. So this is the sink. In the second year, okay, this is the source. From here to in the second year, this is the source. From here to here, the molecules are transported. Maybe the fruits are formed, or maybe the other components, flowers are formed. So here, in the second year, source is the root, and transported to the remaining parts. That is nothing but buds. Okay, buds, right? Or fruits, different. So here, This is the second year. The source is root. Transported to different regions. Here buds is given, right? So that is about that binary plant. First year carbohydrate transport and the second year carbohydrate transport. And the phloem involved in the transportation of sucrose, other types of the sugars, amino acids are transported, plant growth regulators, phytohormones also transported by the phloem. Phytohormones also transported by the phloem. Remember, organic compounds also transported by the phloem. Inorganic components are transported by the xylem, right? So that is about the just introduction for the phloem transportation. Next one we'll discuss about that mass flow, right? That is also called bulk flow. Right? We'll discuss now. This theory is proposed by the Munch. Okay, mass flow. This is also called bulk flow, and this is pressure flow hypothesis. This theory is proposed by the Munch. The scientist name is the Munch. Here there is a mesophyll cells are there. These are the mesophyll cells. That mesophyll cells presence of sucrose. The mesophyll cells presence of sucrose. Right. The cells are turgid. The cells are turgid because more amount of water is accumulated. More amount of water is accumulated. That sucrose molecules are involved in the transportation process. The step is called as phloem loading. See, whatever that mesophyll cells are there, from mesophyll cells there is an companion cells are present. From companion cells to sieve tubes. Okay. See, mesophyll cells to there is a companion cells to sieve tubes. So these are the types of the cells involved in the transportation of carbohydrates. So phloem transport. Okay. See, initially phloem loading takes place. The step requires the ATP. The step requires the ATP. So this is one of the active process. This is one of the active process or active transport. This is one of the active transport. See, initially sucrose molecules are entered to the companion cells. Sucrose molecules are entered to the companion cells. That step requires energy. That step requires energy. Followed by that, sucrose molecules are entered to the sieve tubes. That sucrose molecules are entered to the sieve tubes. So anyhow, the phloem loading process is the active process. Okay, entry of sucrose molecules into companion cells requires energy. Followed by that sucrose molecules are entered into sieve tubes. For suppose this is one of the phloem, okay, and within the phloem this is one of the sieve tube. Within the sieve tube, if the sucrose molecules are entered, so water potential is here. Whatever that water potential is there, water potential is decreased. Water potential is decreased. Solute concentration is increased. The solute concentration is increased. Then whatever that neighboring xylem vessels are there, from the neighboring xylem vessels water is transported into phloem. Neighboring xylem vessels are there, from the xylem vessels the water is transported into phloem. The water is transported into phloem. See, exactly in this region osmotic pressure is high. Exactly in this region osmotic pressure is high. Always here molecules are transporting from high osmotic pressure region to low osmotic pressure region. High osmotic pressure region to low osmotic pressure region. So presence of water, a mass flow takes place. A mass flow of sucrose takes place and finally reaches the target site. Once it reaches the target site, there is a phloem unloading takes place. There is a phloem unloading takes place. The phloem unloading is also active process. Remember, phloem loading and phloem unloading, both these steps are active process. Both these steps are active process. Once the phloem molecules, once the sucrose molecules are removed from the phloem, again the water is entered to the xylem vessels. Again the water molecules are entered to the xylem vessels. Right? So finally, whatever the sucrose molecules are there, the sucrose molecules are maybe entered to the inside the cell. Okay, and inside the cell, maybe these are, whatever that sucrose molecules are there, these sucrose molecules are entered to the inside the cells. Okay, maybe these are utilized, or maybe these are involved in the storage. Maybe these are involved in the storage. See, generally these are stored in the form of starch, or these are maybe converted into the cellulose. Maybe these are converted into the cellulose. If the carbohydrates are converted into the cellulose, which are involved in the construction of the cells. If the carbohydrates are converted into the starch, okay, see, that is the storage process. Starch is the storage form of carbohydrates. So remember, within this process, the mesophyll cells contain sucrose is enter into the companion cells. The step is requires energy from companion cells to sieve tubes. Okay, see, this step is called as phloem loading, right? After that loading process, within that sieve tubes, okay, high solute concentration is present. Water potential is decreased. Then water is transporting from the surrounding xylem vessels. Then water molecules are accumulated. There is a mass flow takes place. Target site is reached. Then phloem unloading is also active process. Phloem unloading is also active process. The next step is the utilization or storage process. That is about that mass flow or the bulk flow or pressure flow hypothesis proposed by the Munch. Right? That is about the last chapter. This is the last chapter. Means after this one, genetics is there. Genetics I will teach by the live classes. Genetics chapter I will teach by the live classes. Right? So this is about the whatever that the transporting plants are there, we discussed. Means xylem, how the water molecules are transported, how the minerals are transported, how the minerals are absorbed, phloem, how the carbohydrates are transported. Right? So that is about this chapter. This chapter is completed. Tomorrow onwards, we will discuss the genetics by the live classes.